some point on the journey, the consciousness expansion journey, you are going to have this clarity strike you like a lightning bolt. And it is going to shake your world, because the way you see things will fundamentally never be the same. It's almost as though the reality that you were living in, one construct, suddenly breaks open like an egg for you to peek out into a different reality layer. And it's like the veil, it's not only seeing through it, but it cracks. And for a moment, you might breathe into it. You might bleed out into this other substance, this other ether that you are unfamiliar with. You might even feel an energetic vibration that you haven't felt before, shaking you out of what is normal, what is expected. You might have an insight that was previously inaccessible to you. Well, you would definitely, because this is about a breakthrough, right? But what I mean by this is something about yourself, a goal, a vision, your manifestations. Previously, in the first construct, you had these plans. But what can happen when you start to have these breakthroughs is all of a sudden you see beyond them in a way that you couldn't before. So you are suddenly catapulted into accessing other timelines which happen to exist. And if you are attuned to energy and the quantum field, then you can tap into these lifelines to get some feedback, some direction. All of a sudden, it's like an aha moment. I imagine one of the old school philosophers or scientists, the late 18th century, perhaps even the 17th century too, having one of these dawning type of moments, only to make this incredible breakthrough in their field of study and shaking up the paradigm for decades to come, building legacies that were previously unobtainable to them because of the way they were solving problems, the way they were viewing things. And when you have this breakthrough moment, this is the potential of them. My experience, what happens is that you get a little peek and then you go back. I call this the preview window, and I have an episode specifically about this. And you can also check out Castles in the Sky for additional, another way of looking at it. It's not directly related to this concept, but it's tangentially so. So what happens is that for whatever reason, you seem to get a peek, but whatever machinery that is driving your reality creation, however that's constructed, if you are in human form, binary form in particular, what seems to occur is that there are these thought loops and patterns that are laid down on your behalf, which serve to help you navigate the world more quickly and efficiently, to free you up to have desires and goals and plans and not just be a robot. And as a result, when you have this lightning bolt of clarity, you see the expanse beyond your ordinary realm. You have new options that are open to you, a new awareness of the options. You can synchronize with the feeling and the energy of them. But then you go back to almost a reboot. You go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, and you're still the same person that you've always been. Except now you have this little tiny seed of awareness that's been planted in your reality creation machine as a new possibility, but it's up to you to navigate to that new possibility. Because what can happen is that, similar with psychedelic journeys, you can have many, many breakthroughs, many, many experiences where you pierce the veil, look into other realms. But unless you do something with it and integrate it into your everyday personality construct and your everyday existence, then you will forget about it. Unless you write it down and you set it as a goal to navigate towards, you won't necessarily get there. There are some caveats to that, but right now is not the time to go into that. Essentially, what happens is that when the egg of your former consciousness starts to break and the little chicken starts to peek out, this is an option. It's not the only option, but it is one option. And it can drastically change your life decisions. I recently had one of these about the nature of work and how I wanted to support myself. And what I found out is that the way I was looking at things was very antiquated. It was everything that I had ever known. But there was a level beyond it that now is much more clear to me. And I was able to zero in on this and start to rearrange my life and my decisions as a result almost immediately. Because once I saw it and understanding the value of these preview windows and the need to take inspired action when you have this, seize the day. If you can, if you are in the right place for that, seize the day. You might also have this with a relationship, with a deep understanding that it's not for you, or perhaps it is for you. And the universe might arrange things on your behalf to allow you to reconfigure the elements of your construct, of your daily existence. But ultimately, it is you that has to accept that has to prioritize that, and bring that into motion and take it out of the seed of awareness and actually into the byproduct of creation. And our action, our alignment is critical to that manifestation process. It is raining so abundantly here. I don't know if you can hear it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So when we are in the state of being, this is a beautiful energy of awareness, but we also have to temper that with the state of doing. And my encouragement to you is to utilize these breakthrough moments, especially if it awakens you to another level of your life that you want to build towards, if you want to get to. It's really important to not take these lightly, because just like when you have a breakthrough on psychedelics, if you don't capture that in some way, when the psychedelic wears off, very often, if you haven't written it down, if you haven't recorded it, especially if it was like a very deep knowing that was at the pre-verbal level, meaning you saw something different, but you weren't able to articulate it yet, and you didn't try to articulate it, inevitably what seems to happen is that it gets buried into the subconscious. And as a result, the conscious version of you that wakes up the next morning after everything is worn off has a harder time accessing it. And these very clear breakthroughs, perhaps your experience is different, but the really big ones, the really big life-changing, altering epiphanies are like once in a blue moon. Like, it happens, but it's not so often and so frequent that you can bank on it. It's not like your dream state and waking up and saying, oh, well, I'm going to remember it later, and then you sometimes do. This is even more rare than that. This is more like seize the opportunity when you have it, because when you have that clear vision, you have the ability to actually crystallize it as a line of sight, which is the foundation for being able to adjust your material world. Because the way you see things is linked to the way you think about things. And this can go a number of different directions. Some people have a lot of negative attributes to their thinking, so they have these perspective shifts that take them down into the gutter, the pits of hell, time and time again. And it's a discipline to work with your mind, to understand when it is doing that on haywire and not on your behalf. I feel sorry for people that struggle with that, because I've worked with them personally and I know how devastating it can be. But it can also be very positive, where you see a solution that pretty much solves the equation of whatever you were trying to solve in your life. Those are the ones to really harness the power of. The way I recommend doing that is talking about it, writing it down, verbalizing it, even if it's just to your cat, even if it's just to yourself. And then creating one small action towards that, if you can, or planning to, and actually go through the process of setting a plan in your mind, writing it down if that's your style, if that's your method, setting the intention. This is really important. Not just playing with the idea, but the actual intention to move towards it, to hold it, to crystallize it, to change your vision, to not let it slip away, to watch content about it that will reinforce that, to feel the energy of it, to actually immerse yourself in that stream of consciousness, which will allow you to hold it more than if it is completely fluid and just, if your fingers are very soft, your palm is open, then this type of insight can actually slip through. But if you start to play with it and hold it in your hand, don't hold it too tightly, but if you imagine that you are playing with this little energy ball and you are rotating it and creating this vortex for it to merge into your palm, setting your body's receptors to feel that vibration, to play with it, to wonder about it, to desire it, to act towards it, then you can harness the power of these breakthroughs almost immediately. And you can set into motion a radical change in your life that may take people by surprise. But when you feel that the energy is in alignment, the catalytic energy in particular, and you have that awareness plus the consciousness that is breaking through, it is an invitation to step into another existence. And when you say yes, and not only just yes, but when you say hell yes, the universe will coordinate things on your behalf, especially with that alignment of intention, attention, both. So intention to act, attention, outward gaze directing towards that desire, that manifestation, plus plan, or better yet, behavior, and then immersing yourself in the experience, the emotions, the energy, the education part of it, you will hit a home run.